Have you ever felt that whisper in your soul calling you to something more, but all the things spinning around in your mind have kept you stuck? Well, what if I told you that choosing excellence could be both easier and more adventurous than you could ever imagine? I am Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, your host of All Things Excellence. I'm a soul catalyst for excellence who leapt off that corporate cliff and left small-town Iowa farm life in my 20s to follow my calling, helping women come home to themselves by anchoring into who they're designed to be. I create sacred containers where women rediscover their truth, design their dream life, and transform those whispers into action. Now you can find me running my business from the soccer sidelines as a coach's wife, hiking my favorite Arizona mountain, or back in Iowa with my family, or on an adventure chasing my next sunrise, hot cup of coffee and journal in hand. Through intimate conversations about the stories, the traumas, and the transformations behind choosing excellence, we're creating a collective healing journey together. I believe in diving deep into personality designs, experimenting boldly, and learning life's greatest lessons through our beautiful chaos. Every week, my guests and I are going to rip down the curtains so you can see behind the scenes of real transformation as we explore what excellence actually looks like. Not just the highlight reel, but that messy middle where the magic happens. Whether you're seeking inspiration to take that leap or already on your journey and craving connection, this is your invitation to join us. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hey, All Things Excellence fam. Welcome to our very special Valentine's edition. I'm sitting here with my husband, Kobi. We have been friends for 20 years. We've been a couple for 15. We've been married for 10. And I counted up, we have had 10 moves. 10 and a half if you count that we lived with Brittany for a month while we were waiting for our next apartment to be ready, to be finished being built. So 10 moves in the 20 years that we've been friends, 15 years as a couple, and 10 years married. We're setting a record.
A record for what?
For not moving.
Yeah, it's one of the best records ever, I think.
We've been in the house that we are in right now for a few years.
I was thinking about this the other day because you were talking about possibly moving, and I was like... Well,
what do you mean possibly moving?
Well, you'd mentioned something about...
Like, we'll move someday.
Yeah, but I was thinking that I feel like every time that we moved there for a period, you were like, oh, I'm going on a trip. Also, we're moving at the time I'm going on this trip, so
I wouldn't
good
say
luck.
I wouldn't say that it was paired. It was never on purpose that, oh, we're going to be moving, so I'm going to go on a trip. It's just that I'm always going on a trip. So
And we were always moving.
And we were always moving.
Yeah.
I was always going on a trip, and we were always moving. We were moving every year. We shouldn't say we were always moving. It's not like we were moving every few months. Like, it was like our lease would be up, and I would get a little stir crazy. And in my defense, I used to have this, like, my friends would call it like this spring itch, where if I was dating somebody, I tend to break up with them in the spring. But then when we started dating, I was like, oh no, I like you. I don't want to do that. So instead, we would move every spring.
Yep.
Every March, we would move. It just kind of worked out. So I did it. I just need things to like be shifted and shaken up in the spring. I get spring fever. I get stir crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Mm-hmm. And then when we weren't moving, I started doing it career-wise. I'd start second-guessing my career and be like, should I be doing something else? But, okay, so we have a series of questions that we got from all y'all. What?
Asby's not in any of these questions, right?
Just one. It's a funny, valid question. I think
Fine.
his question is funny and valid. So, our friend Brian. But I thought it would be very fun to start out with how, because people just see us on the social media, and how fun we are together.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I literally took a caffeine shot to try and like match your energy before
Today?
this. Yeah, just
What do you mean you took a caffeine shot?
4 minutes ago. So if I start itching...
What do you mean you took a caffeine shot?
One of those buck wild things that...
You took pre-workout?
It's not a pre-workout. It's a
What if
caffeine
your
shot.
heart's going to explode? You don't have to match my energy.
Well, I guess you have to give me mouth to mouth. Sometimes I have to match your energy. I don't know.
Okay, so I made a list of things that we're really opposite in.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, I'm an Enneagram 8, which means I'm the challenger. And he's an Enneagram 9, which means he's the peacemaker. Most intense, least intense.
Absolutely.
Most energy, least.
That's why I took the shot. Energy shot.
An energy shot.
I still have to go back to
work.
After
He's
this.
got a long day at the school. He ran home really quick, clocked out, came home for 30 minutes so he could do this. Also, I think our love languages would be very different. Like, you show love with acts of service, but you also receive love with acts of service.
I love it when you bring me a Starbucks more than anything in the world.
Kobe's love language, just tell him that he's pretty, or bring him a Starbucks.
Or lunch.
Yeah. When I feed you.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm just saying, I'm a really great wife to you in that way. I make sure that you have the food and the supplies that you need.
Yeah.
Yes. And I work really diligently to clean up after myself as well as I can. I work really hard at it.
As well as you can, yes.
I am an F5 tornado and you are the Red Cross.
Correct.
Yes. And it's not obviously to your standard.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But I work really hard at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think one thing that happened really early in our relationship when you had moved in, I would always be working from the kitchen table. I've always worked from home as long as we've been together. And I would always be working from the kitchen table. And so he would come home from work during the day or at the end of the day. And I would have exploded life all over the kitchen table. And you said something to your mom about it.
Probably.
Yeah. And do you remember what she said to you?
She said something about toothpaste.
No, she said, was she like this when you started dating her? And
yeah.
And you said, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your mom told you to pretty much get over it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because I was already like that. Like, you chose that.
Yep,
you chose that.
Yeah.
So, yes. Also, I'm the oldest child, and you're the baby. Semi-only child. He's his dad's only child. Yes, so, oldest child, baby / only child. My parents have been married for 42 years. And yours got divorced when you were a teenager. Yep.
For like the second, third time.
Yes, they both were married a couple
Second.
They've both been married a few times. And now they're both single.
Yes.
Yes. Very different from my parents who... my parents have never even told me about other people that they dated. So at this point, I'm just assuming they woke up one day, started dating each other, and got married, and then had perfection, and then had chaos after me. This is a weird one, but I want all the doors open. And you want all the doors
I close all the doors.
I once dated a guy who said there's an opener and a closer in every relationship. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you walk around your house opening all the cabinets and you forget to close them. And I feel like I walk behind you in your own house, like closing all the cabinets and drawers. And I was like, okay. I mean, he definitely meant it as a criticism, but we just embrace it. But also literally, like, I want the doors of the house all open. I want the house breathing, and you like to walk in a room and close the door behind you.
Yeah. Well, we have the guest room, which we...
You close your own bathroom door constantly, nonstop. The hallway bathroom.
Yeah.
But it also is a weird thing where we had to... It was this weird thing that would make me crazy, and it would also make you crazy. But one of the things we worked through... We've always been in, we've never had like extreme issues ever, but we've always been very proactive in being in therapy and like marriage retreats and things like that.
Yep.
Always. Because we both always wanted to do great for each other. And it wasn't out of our marriage is a wreck. It was out of we want our marriage to be so great and we always want to be a team. So and I think me being a personal growth junkie and you being an athlete, he's a goalie. The main priority of a goalie is learning how to communicate well.
Correct.
So he took it from being an athlete, and I took it from business. That communication was everything. So we've always just both been really instrumental in that. But so for me, the punishment as a child, my mom would make me go to my room, and I had to close the door and like be cut off from everyone. That was my punishment.
That was my daily.
That was my punishment, but for him, that was your respite.
Actually, when I was punished as a kid, they took my door off. Like, not even kidding.
Like, that's what I'm saying, though. So, like, that's where we were. And so how that translated into life, like, my parents would punish me by making me go to my room and shut the door. And his parents would punish him by taking his door off. So then we get into marriage, and it's like he wants to shut every door because that's where he feels safe. And I want them all open so it can breathe. And I feel like it's all breathing, and we're all connecting and flowing, and... It was a thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing. It was a very tough thing that we had to navigate through.
Which we still, we don't navigate through it now, but
no.
I was always like sleeping.
Yes, I know for fires, and I just can't do it. I don't like it.
Yeah, so I always slept with the door closed, obviously.
Yeah.
And you like it open.
Also,
which
Chloe
just creeps me out. Yeah,
Chloe likes to wander around the house, so it's you know.
It is what it is now.
It is what it is, yes. Also, I grew up with a lot of religion. Very strict religious family. And y'all grew up with none. None. First time we went to Easter, everyone's like, why are you guys late? And I was like, well, by the time you get out of church and change your clothes and drive here, like, hello, it's 1 o'clock. And then they all started laughing. They literally, his family, the first time I ever met his extended family, were making fun of me because they thought I was joking. I think they thought I was joking.
The most prayers that we ever did was the prayer that they would say before the races on Saturday night.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
Yeah.
Teasing.
That was it. No, that's it.
Your family prayed before the races?
No, like at Knoxville, they always have a...
Oh, so the greatest exposure your family had to religion was when you guys would go to the races.
And they would pray beforehand for the safety of the drivers.
The races for the safety of the driver. That was his exposure. And my grandparents basically built the bricks of the Christian school that I went to. So that was very opposite. And I know there might be Christian people listening and going, well, you guys aren't equally yoked. Like, how did that work out? Honestly, I was so naive. I just
like the word yoked.
Yoked. Yeah. Oh, yoked.
Yoked.
And I think religious people look at that and go, you guys weren't equally yoked. Like, why would you even have married him? I do remember the day, I was so naive, I assumed everyone grew up in church. Everyone grew up like that. I just did, because that was my whole world. And in our tiny towns in Iowa. He was from the next town over, so I wouldn't have known that his family wasn't going to a church. And so I remember saying to my parents after we dated maybe 6 months, but he was managing a restaurant, so he couldn't go to church on Sunday. Our service was only on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't go because you worked. So it just was like this weird circumstance. And then the day I figured it out, I said to my parents, well, we're not equally yoked, so got to break up with him. And my parents were like, whoa, pump the brakes, which I had rapid fire dated a lot of really not great people. And then they met Kobi and they were like, oh geez, like this is the only issue. Like he just didn't grow up in a house. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. So, which like leads into my next thing where I'm crazy driven. And when we started our relationship, I had all the goals and dreams that I was chasing after. And you didn't even know you were supposed to really have any.
Yeah.
But again, we were just raised so different. So much religion, so much entrepreneurship and goal setting. And he was raised in no religion whatsoever. And we work 40 hours a week and we can't wait till we live to be able to retire.
Sure.
Sure. We were just raised in such polar opposite families. And so my family's take on him not being crazy driven, knowing what he was going after in life, and not having a relationship with God was, well, it's not because he doesn't want it. He just literally has zero exposure. Like, how do you hold that against somebody?
Okay.
And I felt like my parents were really cool. My parents were very non-judgmental in that way of like, well, wait. We love this guy, so we got to figure this out. And that was after my brothers got over the fact, the first time you met my brothers, you were wearing your hat backwards and had flip-flops on. Of which I found all things very attractive. My brothers were like, oh my gosh, is this another California douchebag baseball player? That was exactly what they said. When you went up to grab the ice cream from Frosty Gutter. Yeah.
That's fair.
That was fair, right.
And I was also driving a car, which I'm sure they weren't.
And he was driving a car.
Yeah.
They were not impressed.
Nope.
And the guy that I had dated right before you was like this farmer guy, and so they were still a little crushed about it. But they really quickly got over it.
I think so. I hope so.
They love you.
Good.
Yes, they love you. My whole family loves and adores. Like, it's a dream. Like, you wish your in-laws loved you the way that my family loves this guy.
I am very blessed.
Yeah, you are. They do adore you. I do think they like you.
I think it's also because I don't put up with any of your stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And
I can kind of get into a spiral, and you're really the only person that can, like, grab me in the middle of my meltdown. It can be a crying meltdown or like an angry raging meltdown. You can grab me in the middle of that and just in half a moment have me laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Which Stacey Faust actually looked at our human design, and there's like some weird thing in our personality design that it's like we're the opposite sides of the same coin with that. We're stitched to be together.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so we've got these questions.
Okay.
So how we met and started dating. So you met me first, really, because I don't remember this.
I remember meeting you first.
Yes. Yes, I don't, because I was in college, I gave a lot of tours, like hundreds and hundreds of tours to people who are interested in the school, and I would give them in groups. So obviously I'm not going to remember all of these people, but you were in one of the groups.
Yep.
And you remembered me.
Yep.
Yes. I thought I was cute.
I thought you were hot. Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, going to school here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a really good recruiting rate from my tours, I'm just going to say. And then it was like 6 months later, you are working at your friend's restaurant. You move to the town. You start going to the school.
No, I didn't move to the town. I was still living in Knoxville. But I was
thought
working,
you were living in the dorms.
No, I was working at Nationwide, I think.
In Des Moines.
Yeah.
So it's like an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
For people who don't know what that means.
I don't even know what you would do, like calling out people to see if they want a quote on their insurance, and then transferring them up to an agent. So wasn't a.
But then you got offered a job to work at the restaurant.
No, then I quit because it was wintertime in my.
But bottom line, next time we saw each other.
Yes.
You started going to the school the college. You transferred into my college. Mm-hmm. And then you started working at the restaurant that I was already working at.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
He did not know that. One could assume he was stalking me, but
that's true.
But he wasn't. And so you're working, and I walk in one day.
Yeah, you walked in through the
back door,
and then walked right. Like there's one rule that we had, and it's like there's probably a.
It's a gap just like this. It's a gap just
it's
like
this. It's not a big gap. Yeah,
and it's like this.
Maybe
like
3 feet.
Here's the counter, and then here's the hot oven.
Yeah,
which the door
enough room to like turn around and like.
I bet it is this exact space.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, but
and
it doesn't matter.
You have the oven open?
Yeah, I have
the oven is open.
And
the hot giant restaurant oven.
This short little psycho comes walking past me, and I'm like, "What are we doing
behind your back?"
Here? Yeah, behind my back.
With the oven open, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I just like slid on past.
Yeah, and I was like, "What is this chick? Are you allowed to cuss on this podcast?"
I mean, instead of saying the F word, I say F word, but everything else you can say.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, in case somebody's listening with their kids in the car.
Absolutely. But, yeah, so turn around, and, like, she almost gets decapitated, basically.
Because you're taking a pizza out. So there's this long stick.
Yes.
Long pizza, yes.
Yeah.
I had gotten hit in the back of the head many times by that pizza thing.
Not surprised. One bit.
Yeah, many times. Because I would help in the kitchen. And so then that's when you saw me, and then you said to Jordan, you said to Jordan, like, oh my gosh, I know her?
I said, that chick almost got decapitated.
Yeah. But then you
I think, no. Maybe.
Didn't you say, like, oh, I know her? She gave me my tour, and he was like, yeah, she's dating somebody.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So that's when Brad and I were dating. My college boyfriend, we dated for like 5 years. And so 4.5. 4.5, because then there was this like 6-month window, and then we started dating, basically. And how long we've known each other.
A what? 6-month window?
Yeah.
Since when? What was the timeline?
Like 1 year, maybe 11 months, 10 months.
Since you and Brad broke up?
So when we started dating?
Oh, okay. Because there were people in between.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was crushing on you for like 5 years before that.
He was crushing on me for 5 years, but I was dating someone, which you were very respectful about.
Absolutely.
The whole time. But in your defense, if you probably would have, you allegedly tried to ask me out many times during then, because we would break up all the time.
In my 9ness.
Yes. So in all of his 9ness, allegedly, every time Brad and I were on a Rachel and Ross break, allegedly, you would like ask him, he in his mind was asking me out on a date, but really you were like asking me to game night. Like, oh, come over, my friends and I, we're doing board games. But in my defense, I'm in college. This is like age 19 to 24, and I'm going out with my friends to the bars every night, and you don't drink at all. Like, because you didn't even try alcohol until you were 26 years old. So I was like, this is not a good time. This guy doesn't even drink. Like, he's who we call if we need a ride home at the end of the night. Mm-hmm. And he wants me to go to his house and play board games with his friends in the next town over. Like, not doing this. Like,
sounds like a good time to me,
sounded
man.
like sounded like a weirdo. And there wasn't even a time where, and there would be some random run-ins when I would be out with my friends and you would come by, you know, the good old hot shots in Oskaloosa, small town Iowa. And I remember one time Courtney saying, when I was like, there's literally nobody out there today. Every guy's a loser that's left. And Courtney said, well, what about Kobi? And I was like, who's Kobi? She goes, Kobi that you work with. And I was like, what? No, literally no. And she was like, well, why? And I'm like, I don't know, just no. And I remember that moment so clearly, but also in the same time, I was so desperately wanting, like all my friends were getting married. I felt like they were in our town, in our tiny town. And I was like on this hunt, as a hunt, to find a husband. And what? It was. And my mom kept saying, the right person will come. Like, God's got the right person. He's working on you and he's working on them. And at the right time, you'll come together. And so I think I went through a lot of bumps in that like 9-10 months between Brad and I ending our relationship and then you and I starting our relationship, where I think I needed to like have some kinks worked out of me to date you well.
Sounds about right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to get myself a little bit under control. So
especially if you're going through so many like spring cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I'm a very trial and error. I mean, I learn my life, like my wisdom in life is always by trial and error. It's my personality. Mm-hmm. It's a trial and error person. So I had to crash, burn, and learn to figure out what I really, really wanted. So then Sarah had asked, at what specific moment did you each realize the other was the one? You want to tell yours first?
The other was the one?
Yeah. Mine was so clear.
What was yours? Was it when I walked in the bar?
We're not drinking. So I had broken up with, I'd been set up on a blind date. We dated for a few weeks and then I was like, this is just terrible. And we had a mutual friend that I was really rude to when I'd started going on dates with this blind date. Which, by the way, I'm going to interrupt this to say, recently I was thinking about how insanely good God is and how he will give you a chance over and over and over and over and over again. I started thinking about how many times in that 10 months between when Brad and I broke up and we got together, there was a million moments in those 10 months where you and I were in that bar, same bar, both sober, just talking.
Oh,
like the first time I even went on a date with that.
The blind date?
The blind date.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know about this. And I drove back to my town 30 minutes away and you were there and all of our friends were at the town bar.
Yeah. And
we sat under that cove and just talked about how my blind date went.
Yeah, because I had no idea what a blind date was, especially like with how big Facebook was at that point.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go on a blind date with somebody?
How do you not know somebody?
Especially in small town Iowa, because you know everybody.
Yeah, but he was from the next town over, and we did get
so I was genuinely curious how
that all went. Yeah. So we talked about it, but there were so many moments that we had in this exact bar before this moment where, so I'd reach back out to that mutual friend because I was actually pretty rude to him of like, oh, stop texting me, like I'm going on this blind date and it's going to be great and awesome and wonderful and like have a great life. I mean, I can be really rude and I was really rude to him. So I was like, I told my friend, like, I'm going to reach back out to him. I feel so bad. I was so rude to him the last time I talked to him a few weeks ago. And so I did. And he was like, hey, we're actually all going out tonight. Like, you should come out. And I'm like, sure, I'm 25. Like, let's go. Single, 25, small town Iowa. Might as well go to the town bar. So we go and a lot of our friends are out. And our mutual friend, she said, hey, you should text Kobi. If you text him, he'll come out. I was like, okay, great. Well, I text him. He had just driven from my hometown 30 minutes away to his hometown and gotten off working like a 16-hour shift.
Yeah, it was a long day.
And you were in your best friend's wedding the night before.
Yeah. So it was a long couple days. And I was like, pfft.
Yeah.
Because they had texted me beforehand saying like, hey, come out. And I was like, no. I'm so tired. Like, not a shot. And I had to work the next day. And
you had to work a full day, 16 hours the next day.
So you had only half day, but regardless,
you had a full wedding day. You worked 16 hours, and you had to immediately go back to work at 7 a.m. the next day.
Yeah, and then we would have had soccer that next night too.
Just a lot going on. And so when I text him, he was like, well, if you promise that you're going to stay out, I'll come. Yep. And I was like, oh, sure. Like, I would say that I'm like A++ on my flirting game back then.
Oh, I mean, that's why I would get so confused, because there would be times where I would work with you.
Yeah.
And I would come home to Nolan and I'd be like, dude, she's totally into me. Like, I'm pretty sure I got a shot here. And then 2 weeks later, I would come home and I'd be like, dude, I have no shot whatsoever. Like, I am absolutely friend zoned at this point. Like, there's
friend zoned for life.
Yeah, there's no shot. But like, it was always like a back and forth of I'm like, oh, actually 3 months after saying I'm friend zoned, I think I got a shot here. And then,
do you think it's just because I'm a very happy, friendly, kind person?
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Because it's just like at life. It's just at life now.
Yeah.
You know, like your coworker is always like, oh my gosh, she's always so happy. But I think that's just my general stance in life. But so then we did go out, and he did eventually come. I waited a very long time for you. I texted you at 10:30. You didn't get there until midnight. I did not drink at all because I just was not having any drinks that night. And I'm sitting there talking to our mutual friend at the time, and then you walked in the door, right? He walks in the door, and I'm not kidding. And like, full disclosure on this, I'm sitting there talking to our mutual friend who, in that moment, could have maybe considered that I was like out on purpose to talk to him. Could have probably considered that in hindsight. In hindsight, in my very innocent style of life, that I just always assumed that, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really good at, like, I'm not good at picking up on, I'm great at reading the room, but I was not great at reading, like, understanding when guys were maybe in.
Yeah, that's because I literally said, oh, I'll take you on a date. And then you just walked off back to
I apparently walked right out of the way from him and didn't even understand. Yeah, I wasn't really good at, like, reading that.
Hide under a bed now.
When guys were interested in me. So I'm sitting there having this conversation with this other guy, this mutual friend of ours, and he walks in the door, and it was like, God, I swear, you guys, I'm so dead serious. People can think I'm a weirdo. I don't even care. I felt like in that moment, God was like, and that's who you're going to marry. And I was like, what? He's like, yep, that's your husband. I was like, interesting. Okay. And I just knew. And so no matter what happened over the last 15 years, no matter if, like, life was hard or trying, or you were very frustrating, or I honestly, you go through seasons in your relationship where you're like, I really don't like you right now. Like, I love you, but, like, I do not like you.
Yeah.
And this is not what I agreed to. I would go back to that moment and go, okay, but I know that God told me in that day that you were for me. And I believe that meant for this entire lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think mine was when I broke up with you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then 6 months later, he broke up with me because I had a meltdown.
It wasn't just that. It was also, like, how intense you were, like, leading up, like, a few weeks leading up to it, and just, like, how...
I'm intense at life.
Yes, absolutely.
Intense.
Yeah.
Also, which I didn't think about in that time, but in that time, we start dating. I say June 26th, he says July 4th, whatever. We start dating. In August, my brother gets diagnosed with really serious, what is that? Like, intense cancer. Like, it's really serious. It's really intense.
Oh.
Cancer.
Yeah. I thought you were trying to say testicular.
Well, testicular. It was
intense.
Testicular, but it was everywhere. Yeah. It had spread everywhere, and it wasn't, like, light. It was intense. Like, immediately you're going into surgery tomorrow. You're like staying in the hospital every third week, and you can't work. It was very intense. It was very intense chemo. And all at the same time, I decide to take a huge advancement in my direct sales career. So, Brett is, like, going through all of that. I'm going through all of that. And I'm an intense person in general. You really only had one other serious relationship in your whole life. Yep. Really, you only had one other. Like, I mean, come on, like, really real. Yeah. Really real, right? And it wasn't, like, really a good adult relationship. It wasn't an adult relationship.
No, not at all.
Like, I had already been through an adult relationship where it's like, if we're going to do this, let's do this. Let's talk about this. And you had not. Correct. So I'm intense at life, and you're not. And then you broke up with me for my intensity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And my response was, do you remember what I said?
No, but you're just combative about the breakup, basically.
Well, I was like, that's fine. You can break up with me, but you at least have to tell me why. Like, I want a list of reasons as to I needed a list of reasons as to what are all the reasons that you are breaking up with me, because you can leave, that's fine, but I need to fix this because I'm not going to, like, I'm going to be better from this. I always just felt like every situation I can be better. And when we got to the bottom of it, where it was just really my intensity, I said, well, I can just go to therapy for that. And you were like, wait, what? And I was like, I'll text my therapist right now and set up an appointment for tomorrow.
Yeah, but that was like, because when you said, will you come over and talk about it?
Yeah, I wanted to have a conversation.
There was still like an immaturity in me that was like, no, like I don't want to talk about it. Like, what was there to talk about? Like, it's stupid. Like,
an immaturity and you're a very passive person in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I was like, I'm 26.
Yeah.
I should probably grow up and have a mature conversation about this. So. But
you had not had a real adult serious relationship yet at that point.
No.
No. Mm-mm. You were still very laissez-faire bachelor life. So I think you might have plucked yourself out of the friend zone, but I also like plucked you out of no experience.
Yeah.
And so I think we both had to, like, while I was very intense, like, you also had like no like adult relationship experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bella asked about like joining bank accounts and sharing finances, which we kind of talked about this before. This is such a really loaded question because I would say after a year you moved into my house. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm already paying all the bills, so I'll just keep paying all the bills. And then I assumed, because remember, I knew instantly we were going to get married, so here we are. At this point, we're 26 and 27. He moves into the house that I own, and I think, I'll just keep paying all the bills because I'm already paying all the bills, and then he can save all of his money for my ring and our wedding. That was my thought. I did not share that thought with him.
Nope.
How did that go?
I don't know. How did it go?
Bad. Really bad. Because I wasn't yet in that place where I was like saying the thing, because I didn't want to wreck our relationship. I knew that I was so intense for you. So then I swung so hard the other way, not saying anything.
Yep.
And talking about money was really tough for you because you grew up around a lot of arguments around money. Yep. Yeah. So it just became this thing that we just never talked about. So I feel like I think when we moved to, what do you think when it was we moved to Dallas, it was when we really started like your money is my money.
Yeah.
So we'd been dating for
2 years?
3 years. 2.5 years.
Oh yeah.
2.5. At 2.5 years we've been dating.
Oski, Des Moines.
And then we moved to Dallas.
Yeah. Because we dated, yep.
So we were in a small town, and then we moved an hour and a half away to Des Moines, Iowa, and then we moved all the way to Dallas. We were there for 6 years, and then we moved here to Phoenix. And I would say when we moved to Dallas was when we really went, this is our money. We're doing this. We're moving across the country together. This is our money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was so hard because
that's when we were really paying like adult rent too. Because prior to that, obviously we were.
My mortgage was $400. Yeah.
And then, the Des Moines was what, like $800 a month or something like that.
Yeah. And then nothing. I wish. Give me that, please. Yeah, and then we moved to Dallas, and we've got like this $1,500 rent. Plus, we still have my mortgage back in Iowa because we had kept that house. So there was just a lot. So we actually had to really pay attention together as a team, what we were doing. But I feel like if I could go back, I wish that we would get really honest really quickly and really transparent with each other right away.
Yeah.
On that. I feel like we actually did everything wrong with that before we then had to figure out how to do it better.
Do you think they can hear my stomach growling on the microphone?
Do you need a snack?
No. I was curious.
I don't know.
It's so loud. Did you hear it?
I did hear your stomach. I did hear your stomach growling.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did it all wrong before we did it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Next question. This we're gonna go maybe a different angle with this. Jennifer had asked, what do you do about trusting each other in the bedroom? I've had some trauma. What are tips and tricks to letting it all go? And on that, I want to say, I think a lot of people hold back. I'm apologizing if my parents, my aunts and uncles are listening to this, my siblings. I think a lot of people, I think we're not gonna literally specifically, talk about in the bedroom, but we're going to talk around it, because I think a lot of people hold a lot of things back in the bedroom for different reasons. I think maybe they've had trauma, maybe it's a religious thing, maybe they have body image. I remember when my childhood best friend got married, and she said to me, I was like, hey, what's it like? You guys live together now. Like, what's the whole sex thing like? And she's like, it's so weird because, like, I know we're married and everything, but because we were raised up so hardcore religiously, like, you do not have sex, that now I feel like every time we do, I feel kind of like some shame about it. I feel like it's like wrong. We're committing a crime. And, I would say on my end, I did always feel like if I would ever get pregnant before being married, that would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me, just because I was raised in such a strict religious home. Now, do I have very awesome parents who would have, of course, been understanding? Yes. I mean, would I say that I had the fear of God from my dad's family that I would be disowned? Absolutely. Is that probably true? Not so much, but I definitely would have had like quite the scarlet letter from them, because they had a lot of judgment about that. But so that was tough for me. And then,
I mean, kind of to add to that, like, obviously my sister was 17 when she got pregnant.
Yeah.
So I think there's also like...
That was a lot and his sister got pregnant before he was ever born.
Yeah, like my nephew was...
You're older than you.
6 weeks older than me. So like we grew up in the same house together. So I think like maybe some subconsciously, I kind of knew the struggle that comes with...
Yeah.
With that, so...
It also made it... I think we both came into the relationship in our marriage with like really weird things in the bedroom, but it's not like something traumatic happened to either one of us personally. It's more like I came into it with this scared to death religion. He came into it with this scared to death watching his sister have gotten...
Responsibility.
Very Enneagram 9, very afraid of more responsibility.
Yeah, man.
To drain your resources,
Yeah.
to take your energy, to take your me time.
Right.
And so I think that made it really hard for us, but in a different way.
Yeah. I think even, like, if we even think about, because Nolan was 19.
Yeah, your best friend got pregnant really young.
When they had Kylan, and just kind of seeing...
A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility at such a young age. It's kind of like, ooh.
You're 20 years old, and your best friend's living with you, and his toddler sometimes is staying with you.
Yeah, which is fun, but it's also not...
You're like, this is fun,
my
but like...
responsibility, yeah.
Yeah, like...
It's when she's throwing up in the middle of the night, and you have to get up, and at 20 years old, I was like...
Funkle Kobi is one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like getting up in the middle of the night is another.
Yeah.
And I'm the oldest girl of 30 cousins. You also have a lot of cousins. So I think we grew up, which probably, I mean, if you're like trusting each other in the bedroom. And then I think a lot of people, like, body image is always a thing in your 20s, and dating, I think for either person, it can be like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like everybody can feel insecure. And I think that, we did actually take a John Townsend, so Dr. John Townsend, he's a clinical Christian psychologist, and I was in his leadership program for a couple years, and we had a marriage weekend. And do you remember the day that this was probably baptism by fire for us. We'd been married for a couple years at this point, but we had this day where we're in a room with, there were 8 couples, so 14 other adults, and then 2 therapists. We're in a room where we are watching videos about intimacy, like sexual intimacy in your marriage all day from a biblical standpoint. And so we had to talk about a lot of things that we'd never talked about.
I don't remember that.
Did
at
you
all.
black out that
I think
day?
I did, man. I think I was like, this is so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
That
Do you remember that? And then Ben
I
was
going,
paired
"Zink."
with us.
No, man. I really don't remember any of this.
Carrie couldn't be there that day, so then Ben was paired with us, and I was like, oh, this is great, because it'll be easier with Ben, like, Ben. And so as, like, little small split-off groups, like, we had Ben, who's super cool, he's our friend. You don't remember that? The 3 of us sitting there talking about it?
I don't.
You blacked out.
I swear I
blacked out.
Yeah.
But it was that day, how the level of how uncomfortable you were, I went, like, emotionally, there was so much around it for you.
Yeah, but that whole weekend was so uncomfortable for me. to be honest with you, like, it was It was so much.
It was.
A lot more than what I was
Expecting.
ready for. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really good.
It was really good, yeah.
And I think that's the thing is that part of working through that, like the tips and tricks is you just have to talk about it, right? I mean, I also was once told by my Bible study mentor that they would always tie it with finances, and they would like treat it as like they would go over their finances and then they would go like do that and treat that as the reward. Robin. Robin Moore, she would always tell me that. But yeah, I think I think it's just like getting there and having that conversation. So for you as a guy who I think it's really hard, it's really uncomfortable for a woman to approach her husband about wanting to take it to another level in the bedroom. You know, I don't know, you just got to go in and talk about it.
Pretty much, yeah.
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 And maybe, I think, come at the angle where it's like, I'm not coming at you, but I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
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 Next question.
Okay, we'll move on. How exhausting, this is from our friend Brian, how exhausting is it to be married to a soccer fan? I would not say a soccer fan.
Honestly, it has to be so exhausting.
It actually is exhausting. Our whole life is built around it. I mean, literally, we have to go to church on Saturday nights because God forbid we miss the Premier League on Sunday morning. You watch soccer on Sunday mornings.
I love it so much. I do, man.
It is so important to you.
My eye's twitching.
Yeah. We were together for maybe a few weeks, and he was writing out this whole diagram of the Premier League, which is like a league of soccer in Europe.
Because it is realistically so confusing how many different competitions they have compared to like your American league where you have the NFL, which you're going to play.
Yes, you have all those
regular season games every season, and then you have the playoffs, and then you have the championship. Whereas,
but do you remember what you said to me? You said that you have your religion and this is mine, and I was like, oh Jesus, take the wheel! Don't ever say that to my family ever. Like literally, never say that ever again. It is not a joke. It is not funny. Like we do not say that. Compare it to anything, but we do not compare it to that.
But no, you're right. Like knowing what I know now, no, but. I lost the breath out of my lungs that day. Like, oh my gosh, don't say that. I'm not going to try and talk my way through this or out of this one, but yeah, it's a passionate sport. You are so very there's a lot of passion that goes into it. Yeah, which is why you're a soccer coach. A lot of dedication. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe sometimes too much passion. Yeah. That goes into it. Yeah. So yeah, it is. It is. I think it is. I think it is a lot draining. And I think the thing with that, though, when I was really journaling about it this morning, is that I think one of the keys, if there's like a couple keys to our marriage that makes it work so well, and what you see is what you really always get. Like, we really are always like this. And even if we're not, I don't know, like, we don't really argue about things we talk through life really easily. Yeah, it's just if we're both tired and we're both empty, we can be a little snappy back and forth, and one of us will always catch. Usually let's be real, I always catch it if we're being sassy. I catch the sass, though. You're the sass. Yeah, but you can be equally as sassy. I can. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes you like to poke the bear. I feel like. Who? You feel. And I'm like, I'm not poking a bear. Like, why would I do that to myself? But at the end of the day, I think the thing is that we are always each other's biggest raving fan. Absolutely. Like, whatever the other one's obsession is, we are each other's biggest raving fan, no matter what it is, no matter how stupid it is. Because I was like thinking, I'm like, well, what was the question that we're talking about? How exhausting is it to be married to a soccer fan? Oh. So then I was going to ask you, how exhausting is it to be married to somebody who's so driven and so obsessed with her siblings? You know, it's very important to me that we have like a very tight relationship with my siblings, but also I'm always very driven. The siblings thing, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, I think it's one of those things where you kind of know it going in. Like, I knew how important it was for you to be an aunt and like have your littles. That it is what it is. Yeah, and the boys and their wives. Yep. So. That's one of those things where going into it, I don't even blink an eye at it. I mean, technically that was from day one too, because... You also knew me for 5 years. Like, it wasn't a secret. On our first date. It was though, because like I knew you as I
You
didn't know
thought it
you
was a
as
secret how driven I was?
I had no clue.
You didn't see me hustling them tables at that restaurant?
I just looking at your butt.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't seeing any of that. Like I was just
Oh my gosh.
straight surface. I wasn't looking for
You're being
anything deeper. Plus,
shallow.
I'm not a deep thinker at all.
Yeah,
I'm
you're not.
thinking,
That's true. That's
this
true.
girl's waking up at 5 a.m. to work a fitness class, and then
Yep.
going to
And then nanny.
babysits, and then
working. I had 5 jobs.
and then working at the restaurants.
Yep, I had 5 jobs when we
as
started
well
dating.
as-
Running a business. She's starting a new business. And
Like at that point, I was just like, man, she's got some just bedroom eyes going on here. Like, whoa, girl.
you didn't think anything like, girl, this girl is
Nope.
a hustler. She'd make a
Nope.
great wife, a great...
Absolutely not.
Nothing?
I mean, we'd like once we started dating, we'd obviously talked about
Yeah.
you know, me being a stay-at-home dad. But like even at
On
that
our
point,
first date, I asked him 3 questions. How do you feel about your wife being more successful than you?
dope.
How do you feel about your wife making more money than you?
Go for it.
And how do you feel about being a stay-at-home dad?
Where do I sign? Like, what are you talking about? That's boom, boom, boom. Like,
Yes.
especially as a 9, like knowing what I know now. Like,
Yes.
you took all the responsibility off the plate.
God, didn't I?
Like, always wanted to be a dad. So like, you want me to sit around and play with kids all day? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like, plus, like, I don't want to use the word grooming my own kids, but
Yes.
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh, we're gonna watch soccer all day today.
Yeah.
No.
And learning and education is obviously very important to you.
Right.
You're going back to school to be a history teacher. You work at a school, so
Yeah.
the idea of like you'd even said like, oh, I would homeschool my kids just to like be more in control of their education.
Yeah.
And I was like, never. Love.
Well, I say that now. Who knows? You know, once it's
Yeah.
applied, if it would actually
Yeah.
say that way. But yeah,
Yeah, I love our school. I love our education system. I love what we do here for kids. I think we do a great job where we live.
Yeah.
I think we do as great of a job as we can with the resources that we have. So, okay, well that segues into question number 6. How are you married for 10 years without kids? We get asked this. We actually don't. We used to get asked this a lot. We don't get asked this anymore.
no, I literally had 2 girls asking me yesterday.
You did, the girls?
Yeah, Kylie and Skylar were like,
Oh.
"When are you having kids?" I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's...
"When do you guys stop?"
Stop asking. Yeah, I think that's I know Caroline asked if you would talk about that. I said sure. I think it's really hard, but I think a lot of it, like, you know, we've never ever been on birth control, but I also knew how to do family planning. Like, I wasn't an idiot. I knew what blue days were before they were blue days on an app, and blue days are like your fertile days. I knew what that was.
Sorry, don't be laughing, but now I remember.
What?
Well, what we talked about prior to this.
Yes, like I knew what blue days
That makes
were.
sense. Why you told me not to say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, don't say weird
Yep.
things that like funny things that are funny in conversation with your friends that are not funny conversations if my aunt, uncle, or my parents are listening to this. But the biggest thing is I've never been on birth control because I don't agree with what it does for your body, but I also understood like how a woman's cycle works. My cycle is like a perfect 26 days. So, you know, there was definitely an era where we were intentionally being careful, right? I do think emotionally, I think a lot of it, we probably have never ended up with kids yet because just emotionally, we were both a little afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of us afraid of the responsibility, not feeling like we were settled in life enough.
That's the biggest one. It's like not feeling settled in anything.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, people would say to us, oh, you're never ready financially. And we'd be like, that's fine that you can do that. That's not for us. Yeah. But it was more about like, you really didn't know who you wanted to be, what you wanted to do, any of that.
Yeah.
It was really messy.
Yeah.
With you. And so I think you definitely had to figure that out. You know, and now here we are, we're 40 years old, and I think we said this recently, like it would be so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, anyone that knows this, it would be so sad, right? If we don't ever get to have kids. We're not trying for quite a while now, but you know, we're not going to we agreed not to do fertility, like anything crazy.
Yeah.
I watched my cousin and his wife go through that really hard, and then they ended up getting divorced, and I just always felt like they lost the best pieces of themselves doing that. And but we are really blessed. Like we have Zach and Lizzie, and then Bracken and Zach and Lizzie are these kids that I nannied, and they're very important to us. And then we have my 4 littles, Bracken and Brinley and Barrett and Cooper, and then you're at the school.
Yep.
We have 900 kids in the athletic program.
Yep.
And so yeah, I mean it would be very, very sad, but we also would
Yeah.
be okay.
Yeah.
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 So it's kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah.
But we're not going to lose ourselves like shooting me up with a million chemicals to. No. I know. And people are like, "Oh, will you go to the doctor?" If one of us was like broken per se, I wouldn't want to know who.
Yeah.
Would you want to know who?
I would want to know if it was you and not me. Because I feel like if it was me, it would somehow come back to something that I did
Yeah.
10 years ago or...
Yeah. Or something that you eat.
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly on you about your diet, and like what you're putting in your diet, and your phone in your pocket, and all the things. And and I think that's where it's tough, because I don't want to know, because if it was him, I could never not be mad.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could
exactly.
ever get over it.
Yeah.
And that's why infidelity will never happen in our marriage, because I could never get over it. I know that people do. I could never get over it. And if it was me, like I would be, I think it would be bad. I would be so hard on myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I'd have to work to fix it and do whatever I could. And then if it was unfixable, then I would, I would rather just really not know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So a couple more minutes. I feel like we've kind of approached this already, like marriage as an Enneagram 8 and 9 and our abnormal approach to gender roles. How is it for you as a guy being married to more of like, I am alpha female-y, but I feel like I also had to learn to take a step back, because I think I took up all the space in the room. And then when I took a step back and I created space for you, I feel like you really stepped into your own. And can you talk about what it was like being a guy who you didn't innately have that I want to provide for my family thing, and then now you do? What was that like, that pivot like for you? How'd you get there?
I think honestly it was just from you. I don't want to say like pushing, but you encouraging me to step out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So like once we moved to Dallas, mm-hmm. and I was working at the clinic.
Yeah.
I was an employee. Like it wasn't anything crazy. Mm-hmm. I had some responsibilities, but it wasn't anything where like if I'm not there, when I left, it wasn't like, oh, how was this place going to run without me?
Yeah.
And then obviously going to Netflix, that was literally just to
call center.
Yeah, just to do something different, basically. And then
you came home and worked for me.
I came home and worked for you.
Did not work.
Never
doing that again.
And then yeah, Orange Theory. I think Orange Theory was like probably the best thing to happen, because
which I drug him into. He didn't want to get a job, wouldn't get a job, kept saying you were looking for jobs, wasn't looking for a job. I was working out at Orange Theory, and they were hiring someone part-time, and I physically drug you in that office.
Yeah.
And made you do an interview with that lady, Tracy.
Yeah.
Sure did. But that's kind of our marriage, though. Like, I do think that you always want to be greater.
Yeah.
But you usually need an oomph from me.
I definitely did then, especially at that time. So yeah, and then Orange Theory, I think I just really fell in love with like the concept and the company as a whole. And there's always like, even at the clinic, there was always something about like helping people and how that's such a good feeling. I think the same thing for Orange Theory is like people, because I had so much experience in customer service where people were calling in and they were so mad at you, and it's like, I'm literally just trying to help you.
Yeah.
And then you go to something where it's like, oh, thank you for
realize,
doing your job.
Yeah. And it came down to it. I think when you really dug in and got driven at life, like Orange Theory was huge.
Yeah.
because they asked you to be a manager for 6 months before you would.
Yeah.
And we were in that leadership marriage therapy where Leah was like, you need to be a man.
Yeah.
Like, all at the same time, I was, like, losing my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I was emotionally and mentally, like, having kind of I had an emotional breakdown. It was bad.
Yeah.
Then you kind of didn't have a choice.
Right.
You, like, kind of had to take care of us.
Yeah, but I think that's marriage as a whole. So that you're going to go through cycles where, like, you're taking care of me, I'm taking care of you. Like, we go through these cycles where
we hand I think we hand the baton off very well.
Yeah.
The baton, like, who's doing
the laundry?
Because it's never a balance. One is always carrying a heavier load than the other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right now we're both carrying very heavy loads.
I was going to say, who's carrying the heavy load now?
Who we need to hire someone to carry the heavy load for us right now. We're actually both struggling, but we're just doing we're kicking butt and taking names in a lot of places.
Yeah.
We are in the thick of it.
Correct.
Season right now.
Yeah.
We're doing great.
Yeah. But I think ultimately, like, that has just kind of pushed me into just always being, what was the original question again?
Just our gender roles and our abnormal approach and how because we did have a really great marriage advice. Our friends Chris and Randy, who are the 30-something older version, that's not true, they're not that much older than us, 25-year older version than us. Their kids are our age. They had, Chris had said to me a decade ago, nowhere in the Bible did God mean, like, say provision meant money. That the man providing for the family meant that the man is the one who makes all the money, because it's not like that for their family. It's more like us. And also, I don't know, that just really gave us that permission to live how we needed to live. And especially you choosing education, I was born expensive. So I am not accepting the lifestyle of an Arizona educator's income being my lifestyle.
Good choice.
No, I love it. I support it. I hope he has a very long and wonderful career with it. I love going there and helping constantly. But I'm also very willing to supplement the income and make the money for the expensive life that I prefer to live. Yeah. So there's that. Okay, next question from Bella. How do you keep the relationship fun and navigate the roommate phase? Because we're going to be really real. We got a couple minutes left that we can talk to y'all. We have hit the roommate phase many times because you, as a 9, the sloth thing, they check out to the intentionality in their relationships, and you can check out and go into roommate mode really easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially when I'm, like, overwhelmed.
Yes.
Like, right now I want to check out.
You want to go into roommate.
Oh, bad.
You want to go into roommate mode right now.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So bad. But it's also one of those things where you just kind of learn through it.
Yeah.
And I think it's also one of those things where you have to communicate with your partner of, like, just now saying, like, I think last week.
And quality time is my love language, so I'm actually extra hard to deal with.
But I also think it's, like I said, communicating that, because last week I said, babe, like, I know we haven't seen each other in a while, but, like, I just need a day to not do anything. Like, I just need to game for a day, like, play video games for a solid 6-7 hours. And I think you were like, yeah, I'm just gonna watch the new what's out now,
Magnolia.
What is it? Sweet Magnolia. Yeah. So I think you said you were gonna watch that or find something, or I think you were actually working.
I think I actually had so much work to do that day. I worked all day. But the thing with that was even though my quality time love tank was very, very empty, I knew that I couldn't get actual quality time out of him if he was so empty. So I had to let him fill his tank to even be able to fill my tank. And I think there's just for me, there's just a lot of parts of you that I just accept that.
Yeah.
I accept that as a 9, he has so much less energy and bandwidth than I do as an Enneagram 8. And I just accept that, and I love you in spite of that, and we figure it out. And my love language to receive is quality time with people that I love. And he can always feel that. So, you know, he does tell me why he loves me every night before we fall to bed, which is I think that's more of as an 8. Okay, so if he can at least find one reason that he loves me today and tell me about it, I wasn't too intense and I didn't wreck it all today. My friend Chris and I have laughed about that, actually, that we both do that. And I'm like, you do not do that. She's like, I do. Because it means I didn't screw up that bad today. And I was like,
but there are some days where you're like, why do you love me? I'm like, I don't like you today at all. Like, I love you, but like I do not like you today.
I know, because that was a lot.
Yeah.
Or like life was a lot.
Yeah, life was
a lot. And life is hard. And
yeah.
And I think we just have agreed. My parents told me a long time ago when we were new in our relationship that the key to being married so long is that you just choose each other every day. And life is always going to be hard, and things are always going to be hard, and there's always going to be traumas and transitions, and you just have to choose each other every day, no matter what. Mm-hmm. I did have one last question. What is something that you think the other one does really well? What is something that you think the other one does really, really well? And I thought the thing that you do well, that's my favorite thing. You do a lot of things really, really well, actually. You know, like you navigate me always throwing myself off of some proverbial cliff of a new idea. But my favorite thing that you do well is how much you love, like from day one with Zach and Lizzie, and then now bringing like the new littles in with my niece and nephews, the level that you love them so hard and big, like the way that I love them.
Oh, I don't love Barrett. I hate Barrett.
Oh my gosh, why do you listen to this someday? You're teasing.
I am teasing.
Yes.
Yeah. But they're also like unique in their own little.
Yeah, all 6 of them.
Little way, yeah.
And they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Like, you know, Bracken's going to be so sweet. Barrett's going to go off on some ridiculous made-up story that...
You're like, I don't even know what you're saying.
There's, like... I think I'm pretty good at making up some stories, and I'm like...
He's even better.
Dude, at your age, how are you coming up with this stuff right now? You know? And Cooper and Brinley, like...
All right. I got to go in 30
sweet.
seconds. I know.
Dude,
we
I gotta
squeeze
go eat,
this.
man.
We squeeze this. But
But
they're
yeah.
all the best.
Yeah.
But yes, that's what I think that you do so
And I think
well.
for me, I love that you always find time to do things. Like, I'll text you and be like, hey, can you go grab this for me? And you're like, oh, yes, like, I can. And
I am very bottomless as to what I can make happen for you.
Yeah. Because when you do that to me, I'm like, dude, grow up, man. Like, I don't have time for that. But, like, when I ask you, you always find time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love you. Thanks for doing this with me.
Absolutely.
And
Thanks for doing this.
And telling me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like, start a podcast. So, all right, All Things Excellence fam, thanks for coming. I'm sure we'll be back. So, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.